Hi guys, this is Tracy from Pop-Up Paint Studio, and we're doing something a little bit different today. I thought it would be fun to do a tutorial for this pumpkin trio that we have over here for the holidays. It's an easy design to do, and I just thought I would talk you through it. The materials I'm using are a 16 by 20 flat canvas. You can use any size you like. You can use stretched canvas, it doesn't matter. I have a cup of water. You're going to need a cup of water. I have a piece of chalk. Now you can use a pencil, something to draw with. I have 3 brushes, and this one is probably about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch wide. It's a flat brush. Doesn't have to be this particular size, just something comparative. Then I have a smaller one that's also a flat brush. And then I have, here it is, a little more of a detail brush, not a tiny detail brush, but rounded. And something like that. So whatever you have close to that will be good enough. I do have a ruler. You don't have to have a ruler, but you can just kind of eyeball things if you want when we go to draw it. But if you have one, yeah, grab one. The paint colors that we're going to be using today for this design are orange, a blue, this is cobalt blue, but any medium blue will be fine, white. This is called raw sienna, but it's just a dark tan color. This is called burnt umber. It's just a dark brown. And this is called phthalo green. It's a kind of a dark green blue green. But any green will do. It doesn't have to be this particular color. And we are going to be doing some mixes. And I have pre-mixed those, but I will tell you how to do them, and so that we can continue with painting. And I'm not trying to get the right shade because it does take a little while, but you have time to do that. So we'll go ahead and get started. I would suggest that you not only have your water, but you have some paper towels. As you can see, I expect to be very messy today. I'm sure you're not going to need this many paper towels. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw out the design. And it's very simple because I'm going to talk you right through it. So the first thing you're going to do is draw in the table. And you're going to go 6 inches from the bottom, measure up 6 inches. You're going to make a mark. Then you're going to go 6 inches again over here. You're going to make a mark. And you're simply going to connect the marks and make a nice table line. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I'm sure mine's not going to be. Because I'm up here in the air. Let's see what it looks like. And if it's not perfectly straight, you can paint it straighter, okay? I think mine is pretty good. Okay, so if you can't see that mark, I will make it darker in just a minute. But it's 6 inches up, make 2 marks, draw a straight line across. Whether it's with a pencil or whatever, we're going to be painting right over it, so no problem. Okay, so the next thing we're going to draw are the pumpkins. So what I want you to do is I want you to go about 2 inches from the bottom of your canvas, about in the middle. Doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle, just kind of eyeball it. Go 2 inches from the bottom and make a nice line right there. Now you're going to go about 6 inches up, and I promise this will be over soon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're just going to make kind of a smiley face right here. That's going to be the top of that first pumpkin. And the sides are about 3 inches from the edges. So you can just kind of eyeball it about 3 inches and do little ovals like that. And all you have to do is connect those. Connect right there. Connect right there. And you have your first pumpkin. Perfect. I hope you guys can see that. Okay, so now we're going to go in the middle of this pumpkin and we're going to go up about 5 inches. So let's go up about 5 inches and then make our happy face. A little bit smaller maybe. And then we're still going to go about 3 inches from each side, something like that. Whatever looks good. So kind of eyeball the bottom there and see where you want your sides to be. And you may not even need the ruler anymore. Just look right there. All right. Perfect. And if they're not perfect, it's chalk. Just make it perfect. There we go. All right, so now we're going to go about, let's see, let me put it the right way. We're going to go in the middle of this one and we're going to go up about 4 inches. Make a mark. We're going to cap this one off. We're not going to make it as much of a smiley face as a bit of a frowny face. Just like that. It almost looks like a snowman. And that's all we have to do right now. And then you can take your paper towel and you can wipe this line off if you're using chalk. If you're using a pencil, you can erase it, but you don't have to. We're going to be painting right over the top of it, so no worries. All right. So now, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to mix some colors. So I have one paper plate here to show you the colors of the mixtures and what they're going to be. And then I'm going to mix a little bit over here, but I do have some already pre-mixed. So I'm just trying to stay a step ahead. Okay, so to make this mixture, and what we're making a mixture for is going to be the table portion of this design. And we're going to use a little bit of burnt umber, which is the dark brown. Just put some on a separate area and mix some white with it until we get something that looks like this. Something that looks like this. I hope you can see that. I hope I'm holding it right. There we go. All right, so just a small amount of burnt umber and then more white. All right, and once you get a nice color, all we're going to do is we're going to take our large brush, the largest brush we have, pour some more mixture there. There we go. And we're simply going to paint the table. So you're just going to go from here to here. We're going to go around our pumpkin. We're going to be putting all kinds of different marks on this table, so you don't have to worry about how you're putting that background color on. This is the very first color that we're putting on this design. So save your worries because it's going to be so beautiful. You're going to love it. It's a fun design to paint. There. Make sure you smooth out any puddles. You don't want any puddles showing. And there we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this same color that we're using for the floor, put a little bit on our brush, And we're going to add a little tiny bit of that dark brown to our brush. So we got a little bit of both color in our brush, and we're just going to add these little streaky marks to our floor. And it's just as simple as this. You can get very fancy and take it slow and make little knot holes and all kind of fun stuff, but you can also just start dragging those dark colors through that paint while it's still wet, and you can make all kind of cool wood looks. Very fun. You don't have to make it any particular way. You can see the design is very sketchy, very painterly. And if you get a little bit inside the pumpkin area, that's okay. Just trying to make a line, that's okay. We're going to paint right over the top of it. I'm going to add a little bit more here. If you want to, you can add a little bit of white on top of this, as if there is a little bit of sunlight or something hitting the floor over here. Just blend that right in there. I like that. Blend a little bit of white, a little bit of dark, however you want your floor to look. You can put a little bit more dark over here. And underneath where the pumpkin is sitting is going to create a bit of a shadow, so you can make it pretty dark underneath here. So go ahead and lay in some nice shadowy shading underneath where he's sitting. And you're going to do that with your burnt umber, your dark brown. Just use that same brush and just right under here, nice and dark. A little bit darker than everywhere else. And we can add more of that later. So let's leave that for now. We can come back to that and add more later. Even to the floor we can add more. Okay, so I want you to rinse your brush. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Let me set this over here. I'm going to grab another paper towel. All right, rinse your brush. And then just wipe it off. Just wipe it off with your paper towel. All right, so now what I want you to do is you're going to mix another color. You're going to mix a color that's going to look like this for your sky. That's what it's going to look like. Beautiful. And how we're going to do it is we're going to be using white, and we're going to be using that blue that we have. So you can use that same paper towel, the same paper plate that you use for this mix, and you just grab some white, and you're going to grab a tiny bit of blue, because you can always add more blue, but once it gets too blue, you're going to have lots of white to make it light blue again. So start really slow, because this blue really makes your color fast. Make you enough we're going to do the whole sky, so make you enough of that mixture to do the sky. And I'm just going to pour a little bit of my mixture that I made. And sometimes the mixes are a little bit darker, sometimes they're lighter. No worries. Now, when we're painting the background sky, we're just going to be very painterly about it. You can just go back and forth like this. You can go back and forth like this. We are going to have to go around our pumpkins. So I prefer this method of doing my background. Kind of gives it a faux look, and I can easily incorporate these edges without making a lot of paintbrush marks. I can kind of outline it and then do this by dragging the paint into the background, and it all just melds together. And when you're using this way to put your background on, you could put a little bit of extra white in there if you like, and just blend it right in. Don't worry if you get inside your pumpkins, but if you do and it bothers you, I always keep a sponge handy, just a little sponge, and keep it wet, and you can wipe things off. You can kind of, while it's still wet, you can wipe away a boo-boo. So no worries about that. Don't let it dry though. Go ahead and get it while it's still wet. When you're thinking about this guy, I mean, if you have yellow or any other kind of colors where you could do flowers, you know, like sunflowers or daisies or anything, and incorporate it into this design, that's always pretty. You know, you always see pumpkins with flowers. That's what's fun about painting. You can just put whatever you want to in there. You can put words in there. And if you do have a stretched canvas, which means it has sides on it, on the edges here, go ahead and paint the edges, because it gives it such a fun finished look. When you hang it up, you don't have to feel like you need to frame it to hide white edges. You just paint it the same color as your background, and it just really is a very finished look. And like I said, if you want to take a little bit of white and add some white in, and a little, look like a little bit of windy motion or something, do that. Just blend it right in with that blue. Okay, here we go. I'm excited about fall. It's always nice when the seasons change. Something new. And also, if you do something where you feel like, oh my gosh, I've ruined it and there's no going back, that's not true. Because acrylic paint is very forgiving in that you can just let it dry and you can paint right over the top of it and cover it up. So don't just, you know, if you get frustrated, you feel like, you know, that's just the normal feeling when you paint. Because painting is... all the rewards come at the end. I don't know what it is. Painting always goes through kind of an ugly stage or something. I don't know what it is. But I found that if you just stick with it, or if you have to walk away, don't throw it in the garbage on the way. If you have to walk away, just walk away, but come back. Come back and you just look at it with fresh eyes and you're not frustrated anymore. People say, I can't paint. No, that's not true. Everybody can paint. I say that all the time. Everyone can paint. Children. I once saw a video where there was an elephant painting. Everybody can paint. Okay. It's just like anything else. Anything that you keep working at, you get better at, you know. If you want to be a carpenter and you keep working at building houses, you know, you become a great carpenter. You know, if you want to be an artist or a painter, I mean, you're born an artist, but if you want to paint. You can do it. You keep doing it and you get better at it. All right. So there's that background color, and I am going to rinse my brush. I'm gonna put this down. Okay, I have to have two things of water here. I'm so messy. And then we're gonna wipe it off. And I'm gonna break my brush on camera. That's all right. It sticks right back in there. And also, you know, this sponge that I was talking about is good for dabbing off your brush. All right. Okay, so we are going to paint our first pumpkin. So the first pumpkin that we're going to paint is going to be the bottom pumpkin. And that's going to be another bit of a mixture. What it's going to be is this, it kind of reminds me of Dijon mustard. It's kind of a dark tan. It's called raw sienna. And what we're going to do is just take some raw sienna, a pretty good amount, and a little bit of white this time. And just make it a little bit lighter. In fact, I think we need to make it just a little bit lighter than that. Yeah, that looks about right. So what I'm going to do, so if it looks about like that, you're good to go. And I am going to pour a little bit of what I already mixed in there. And we are going to paint the bottom pumpkin. Same brush. And we're going to start at the top. And we're going to just go just like this. We are going to let the brush make our little cuts, our little indentions that a pumpkin has. So we're just going to start at the top, go like this, here, go over the edges. So we'll cover up anything that's white. It's okay if your pumpkin grows a little. Pumpkins are all sizes. And then we're going to paint the middle part. All right, so that's how it's going to go. This way, this way, this way, this way. And then we're going to fill in the rest. Make sure I go over this. Yeah, he got a lot fatter. That's okay though. Fill him all in. This paint is just soaking down in here. There's a lot of paint. Alright. I'm just going to pull this across here. And then pull it all down. Down. There we go. All right, and now we are going to take the burnt umber, which is the dark brown, and we're going to make these lines in this pumpkin that we were just mimicking. So what we got dark brown, and we don't have to go full-fledged dark brown. We can just kind of get a little bit of that dark brown. And we're going to go 1, 2. And then on this side, 1. And they don't have to be perfect. 2. And don't wipe them, don't brush them too much because they'll disappear. So we're just going to do that for now. There we go. And we can hit this underneath here again, this shadow again, if you want to. Give it a nice dark shadow. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to rinse that brush. Rinse, rinse, rinse. And we're going to wipe, 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 or use our sponge, or both. There we go, that's perfect. And now we're going to paint our orange pumpkin. And the good thing about the orange pumpkin is we can just do straight orange. So lots of paint. We're going to do the same thing that we did for the other one. We're going to paint it just like it's, like we're painting in those stripes. And get the middle. And then fill everything in. And while it's wet, go over it again so those lines look right. And look at the bottom. All right, and now we're going to do the exact same thing with that pumpkin. You know, I don't know, he's not as round as I might like him to be. Let me make him a little rounder over here on this side. And that's what you can do if you look at yours and feel like something just doesn't look right. This one just needs to be a little bit rounder over here. There, that's better. All right, and now we're going to take that dark brown without even washing our brush, grab some of that dark brown, and we're going to put those lines in our pumpkin. We're going to do 1, 2. They don't have to be very solid lines. 3 and 4. I think I want a little bit more on this one. There we go. All right, and now you're going to rinse that brush again. And this last mix that we're going to mix is going to be our green mixture. And it's going to look something like that. Or honestly, any kind of green is fine. But let me show you how I made that green. All right, so what I did was I took some of this dark phthalo green, put it on my plate, and then I took some of that dark brown. Let me see if I can get it without making a mess. Oh, put it in there, and then a little bit of white. Now mix that up. It's a pretty dark green, but we'll lighten it up with a little bit of white. All right, so that's that green. So actually, I got to get some of this green out of this brush right quick. Ooh, I got a lot of green. Okay, I made a mess. All right, and we're going to add some of my mix to it that I made. I kind of like the mix I made today better than what I made earlier. Okay, and we are going to paint the top pumpkin. All right, so here we go. This brush is almost too big to paint this pumpkin. I am almost wanting to switch brushes. I'm going to keep going with this one, but if you feel like you want to switch to a smaller brush, you go ahead. I think this is what's called the ugly stage, so hang in there with me. It'll all come together. All right, so there's covering the green one. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I have certainly used a lot of brushes and made a big mess. Woo! All right. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing with our burnt umber. That's our dark brown. We'll put some on that dirty brush. If you have to wipe it off, do that. And we're going to make 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and now you're going to rinse that brush. And we are going to pick up the smaller brush, not the smallest brush, but the smaller brush that you have. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to do a little bit of shading, a little bit of highlighting. So the shading is going to be done with the burnt umber, which is that dark brown. And I need to grab a little bit more because I think I've used it all. Here it is. Okay. Let me put some more burnt umber in my tray. I'll put it over here where it's clean. Okay. All right, so we've got our burnt umber and we've got our middle-sized brush. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting the shadows that would be underneath and between these pumpkins. So we're going to put a little bit of the brown, the dark brown on our brush. And I take most of it off because what we're doing is actually dry brushing. So the first area we're going to be dry brushing is close to the bottom of the orange pumpkin. And you're just brushing a little bit of paint on the bottom because that's going to make it look like it's getting smaller on the bottom. Going in. Go. And now we're going to do the exact same thing to the top of the pumpkin because it is shaded by that green pumpkin. So I just put a little bit on there, and right there where those two pumpkins meet, I'm going to put some shading. And I can pull some of that shading down a little bit. You want to pull a little bit of that shading down, that's fine. Just a little bit at a time. You can always add a little bit more, but you can't take away with so much. And it always has a different look when it dries too, so don't be too critical of what it looks like right now. Some of those marks down, some of these marks a little bit up. There's a lot more paint in your brush than you think. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the bottom pumpkin. We're going to use a little bit of the dark brown. Wipe a little bit off, then we're going to go right here. And we're going to shade up the top of this pumpkin. You can pull some of that shading down. I got a little green spot right there. My goodness, let me leave that. Okay, I'm going to paint over him. So ignore him for a minute. I'm going to paint over him later. We'll get rid of him. He'll be all right. All right, pull some of that color down. Less is more with shading now. You can always add more, but you don't want to go crazy. All right, and now we're going to add a little bit to the bottom down here. And pull it up. That might have been a little too heavy, but that's all right. if you want to add more here, more defined lines, this would be the time to do it. Just turn your brush on the thin line. Just define those lines just a little bit more. Looking pretty cute. All right, now we're gonna do the green pumpkin. Just gonna shade it at the bottom. Might have been a little bit too dark, but you know that green is so dark that's not going to hurt anything for it to be dark. And we're going to shade it at the top. Same burnt umber. Okay, so now rinse that brush. Rinse, wipe. And we need to use some white. So I need some more white. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to use this tray. Hold on. Need some clean white. There we go. So rinse your brush. Get a little bit of white on that brush, just a little bit. And we're going to put a little highlight on our pumpkins. So the highlight, the shadows are going to be the dark color, and of course the highlight is going to be white. But same thing like the shadows. You just want a little bit. You don't want too much. That might have been too much. But that's all right. We'll just keep going with it. When it dries, it won't be that much. Give it a little bit of shadow, and highlight, not shadow. Where you put the highlight is going to be on the center of these sections, because the dark will make it appear as if it's recessing, where the light parts will make it appear as it's coming out a little bit. So it gives it a little bit more dimension. That's what painting is a lot about, is just the shading and the highlighting to make a little bit of realism. So, not that these look realistic, but I think they're beautiful. A little bit of white, just a little bit. And a little bit on the green. He looks funny without his little top. All right, beautiful. All right, and then just rinse that brush and dry it off, because we're going to be using this brush shortly. Rinse. All right, I'm going to take a little sip of drink here. Diet Coke. All right, so now we are going to use our chalk again, or pencil, or whatever it is that you were drawing with. And we're going to draw in our leaves and the top of our green pumpkin, and all the little twiny things. Okay. So when you get ready to draw in the little stem, You're going to come in a little bit further down, maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so, and you're going to come up, make your stem, come back down, and stay in this little area right here, in this little cubby hole. Okay, that's where the stem is going to be. And I hope you can see that. If you can't see that, I'm gonna draw that a little bit better so you can see it. In fact, I wanted to draw it smaller anyway, so kind of like that. I think you can see that better. And the leaves kind of look like this. I'm going to draw with this first, and then I'll go over it with the marker so you can see it. All right, now I'm going to go over with the marker so you can see it better, and you can maybe copy it. There we go. And then the ones down here on the bottom are similar type leaves. This one. I'll go over it. I can do it with the chalk, and then I can change it so it looks a little bit different. I think it needed to be a little bit smaller. All right, and then I've got a couple of them over here. So let me do it first with chalk. There's one, and then we got one more down here. And this one kind of goes off the page, so you don't have to worry too much about him because he just goes off the page. Maybe a little bit different than that. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to paint in our leaves with our burnt umber, which is our dark brown. So, let me find mine. Okay. So here we go. Using that same brush. And we're also going to paint our stem. All right, and we're going to go down here and paint these guys. hope I'm not holding that in front of you guys. And one more. And then we'll put all the highlights on the leaves to make them come to life. Now I'm trying to cover up these marks, these black marks, because they're marker. But if you've drawn with chalk, you don't have to cover up the chalk, because that's just going to wipe right off. Just make sure everything is nice and dry, and just take a damp sponge or a just slightly damp washcloth and just wipe it off. All right, so now we're going to throw that brush in the water, rinse, rinse, rinse. Then we're going to take some of that first color that we did the table with, take a little bit of that first color, that was that one right there, and put a little bit more of the dark with it, and we're going to highlight these leaves and the stem. So you're just trying to make a little bit of a darker color than this, but not as light as the floor. That might be too light. All right, and we're just going to come in here and we're going to put some light marks here, maybe some light marks here. To show where some light is reflecting anywhere you want. Put a little shadow on this side of the stem maybe, just on one side to show that the light's coming only on that side. The same thing with these guys. You might have a bit of light showing here and here, maybe here. Here, here. Isn't it funny? It doesn't really matter where you put that. It's just, you just need that difference in contrast, in lighting. And it just makes all the difference in the world. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So now, you can actually make it a little bit lighter if you want. I mean, you can even add a little bit of white on top of this to add extra lighting if you like. But now we're going to be using our chalk and we're going to draw the little lines. So let me find my chalk. There it is. Now be careful because your leaves are still wet. So I would suggest you let them dry because you can. I am just going to proceed. So we're just being very whimsical about it. We're going around and doing little curlies and continuing on through here and just winding it around any which way you want to, but be kind of curly about it. So curling back. And I don't have to do everything that I've drawn, so remember that. If you don't like something that you've drawn, then you don't have to do that. Kind of come here. And I think that's all I'm going to do. So once you've done that, I want, and up here. And up here at the top, we're going to do a little curly cue. So we're just going curly, curly, curly like that. And the only reason I'm not going to go over with black with that is I don't want this to be like a dark line. I want it to be a little bit kind of sketchy. So I don't want to put black underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wet my pointy sponge, my pointy brush, the last brush we have. I'm going to wet it. I'm going to tap it off a little bit. I'm going to put it in my dark brown, and then I am going to paint my curlies. Because if you'll notice, your paint goes a lot further if you have a bit of a damp brush. And that's all there is to that. And then you go back in. If you need more water, that's fine. Don't let it be drippy though. Put it in the water, tap it off really good. Put it in your brown. And then start going over the curlies that you made. So I kind of went whoop, and you can just keep going. If you have to go over them again, you can. But when you put water on it, it goes a lot further. The paint goes a lot further. All right, and then I've got something going here. Whoop. Ooh, I'm going back. All right, let's see. Got something on here. Oh, that's fun. And then maybe over here. All right. I think that's it. I think that, well, I guess I could do a few more. Let me try a couple more. Let me do a couple more, just kind of whoop-de-doo freehand. There we go. There we go. I like that. Okay. So now the last step of our design is going to be to put those fun little dots all over the place. So they're done with the back end of a brush, whichever brush you want, depends on how big you want your little dots to be. And we're going to use the white, and you just stick your, now look, that's starting to dry. You just stick the back end of your brush in your white, and you just put your dots anywhere you want them. And I like to put them a lot of times in little clumps, like 2 or 3 together, or 3 or 4 together. And you'll have to go back to your paint a lot and do a lot of dots because they're the only really bright white thing that you have on the painting, and it really adds a lot. The white. I just think dots are cute. Am I holding that in front of you again? Probably. Here. Don't forget to wipe off all that chalk. make sure it's completely dry. These dots will stay wet for quite a bit because they're kind of a little blob. So don't think they're dry, because then you'll smear it right across your painting and you will be so mad. Oh no, it's not holding on to too much paint here. Let's see. There we go. All right, guys. Well, if you wanted to do anything else to your painting, feel free to do that. You can make little white flowers along the little edges here between the pumpkins. Little white flowers, that would be so cute. Just take your brush here and you can just put them on. Shoot, I feel like I want to make one just to show you how to do it. Let me show you. You could just take your white paint and right here at this edge, you could just make really cute little flowers right here. And if you have any yellow, or you could even use brown. For the center or whatever, but add whatever you want. I just really appreciate you guys painting with me, and hopefully I can do this more often along with the paint kit videos I do for the kids. I would love to be able to do these for everybody, because everybody can paint. So I appreciate it, and y'all have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.